There's another time that you know somebody's got arm strength when the ball looks like it's moving and it's fast forward right there. You absolutely knew your guy had the step and you just ripped it. Hey, Browns fans, welcome into another edition of the 75th anniversary Browns Breakdowns. And today, this one's going to be a lot of people's favorites. There's no doubt, because I am joined by Browns legend, quarterback Bernie Kosar, Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowler, 23,301 yards passing, 124 touchdowns in the NFL. But more than that, a Cleveland icon. And Bernie, we're going to hop in and watch some of your old film today. I'm fired up about it. I mean, can you believe it? 75 years of the Browns. And I can tell you, since I have lived in this city, the name that is most synonymous with people of my age is Bernie Kosar. And what you've meant to this city and this organization and this town is truly special.
Thank you, Nathan. What an honor to be mentioned in the same breath with the Cleveland Browns in 75 years, and with all the awesome men that have gone before me and have been part of this amazing team and organization. It's amazingly flattering to hear you give those type of compliments, but there's so many other amazing men that have been part of this. I'm just honored to be one of many.
You're right. It is the ultimate team game is football, but it always centers around the quarterback. And we're going to watch number 19 here go and look at some of this old footage, which is awesome. And look at these beautiful Browns uniforms, the old Broncos uniforms. And we're going to start with what I think, and I'm curious to see where this ranks for you, the ability to put the football where you want it, accuracy, ball placement, something you did very, very well, Bernie.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Nathan. You know, when the accuracy part of it, you know, for quarterbacks, you talk about that at length. And I've been so blessed to have been around so many good coaches. And one of my first coaches, my first quarterback coach, was the great Earl Morrall. And he told me, and he taught me a lesson of accuracy. He said, never make a throw unless you have a meaning for it, have a purpose. And every time I've ever picked up a ball, I've always made sure that I had a spot that I picked out, an accurate, specific target goal in mind. And there's never a wasted throw. And that little detail, that little coaching point that Earl Morrall gave me as an 18-year-old at the University of Miami, to never waste a throw and to be accurate with everything, made some of the throws that I had to put in there as an NFL QB really something that I'm so thankful for, to be able to get that type of coaching point and then have that type of ability to be able to make those type throws.
You know, you talked about having a purpose, and right here, this is your throwing in the end zone, but you notice the ball is down. What are you thinking there when you're trying to put it where it's either going to be a touchdown or it's incomplete? And by the way, you're protecting Webster Slaughter there, aren't you?
Yeah, you know, this is one of the great things that we learned as a quarterback in terms of reading defenses, is always go to the single covered receiver. And if you look closely at the all 22 copy on the overhead of that, Webster Slaughter really is double covered there. So from a coaching perspective, some of the great coaches I had should probably give me a minus there in terms of my read, not going to the double covered receiver. But if you that play was part of a 2-minute play, and for the younger quarterbacks out there, when you're able to get into 2-minute flow and you're able to get into your flow of the game, and you're tiring out the defense and the defensive line and the secondary in particular, they tend to be a lot slower getting over to their double coverage because they're looking in the backfield. They're also kind of reading you. So it's really imperative to a successful point for us quarterbacks to be able to take advantage of that. And when you're able to see double coverage like that and do a read or do a throw that you probably shouldn't do, you absolutely have to make sure you're accurate with it. And Nathan, you so astutely point out one of the great coaching points that you need to do on throws over the middle and throws in tight windows like that is why your receivers end up wanting to love you, is because you don't put them in stressful situations. So absolutely, when you see that weak safety coming over to really decapitate Webster, the wide receiver, keeping it low, keeping it from really the belly button down below, so that he only if he can catch it, fall to the ground, and if it gets deflected, it doesn't get tipped up in the air.
And there it is. And that is a touchdown, Browns. As we run through and look at some of these other ones, you know, the accuracy portion really just stands out. And you had the ability, and we'll talk about your touch and your arm strength as we kind of go through it, but it wasn't just necessarily, you know, putting it, but you were able to put it over guys and in front of guys, in between guys. And sometimes right here, just throw it right over the top when your guys got them beat and say, go on and take it into the end zone, my friend.
Yeah, you know, that touchdown pass to Clarence Weathers, number 85. That was actually 1985, my first start in the Astrodome against the Houston Oilers. And that was a third down pass. We were, if you notice, 1985, we were in two backs in the backfield, three receivers, almost eerily similar to the Cleveland Browns of 2020 and probably 2021 in terms of having the ability to have two backs in the backfield. And able to pick up pass protections and blitz protections. In that, on that given play there, Jerry Glanville and the Houston Oilers, they were in an 11-man all-up blitz. So to have that second, this two backs in the backfield, be able to pick up the blitz, and then be able to have some timing and have some accuracy with be able to throw the ball down the field and take shots against blitz coverage. And having that accuracy and touch, it's absolutely imperative. And even though that was my first game, and that play wasn't even in the game plan, that was something that the coaches and Coach Schottenheimer had enough trust and respect in me at halftime to implement that personnel group and inject that play. And then again, as a rookie in my first game, to allow me the flexibility to be able to make that call, and then have the God-given gift to be able to have that accuracy with it. That's something that was really special to me. And all of these years later, that still resonates in my mind.
Absolutely. Nothing like a 60-yard touchdown. As we take a look at this next throw here against the then San Diego Chargers, this is what I'm talking about. Over one guy, in front of the other, even keeps the receiver safe. You've got to have a lot of confidence in your ability to put the ball where you want to make that throw in between three defenders.
You know, Nathan, me and you talk so much on the air and off about how much confidence and self and belief in yourself and self-esteem is to the ability to go out there and make plays that may seem impossible to make, and the ability to get the ball up and down quickly, whether it's in tight windows or with touch, getting it not deflected at the line, getting it above the linebackers' heads, and then being able to drop down before the safeties could make a play on it. Given the fact that we play in Cleveland, Ohio, where the weather isn't always conducive to throwing that beautiful spherical rock around. So when the wind and everything's in play with the weather, it's imperative that us quarterbacks have that balance between the accuracy and the touch, and arm strength to be able to spin the ball with the spiral to get it up and down. And even on that play with the great Reggie Langhorne there, you know, so much of the abilities to make those plays on the field really shows you the process and work that all of us put into being able to make those plays. And that comes from a lot of practice. And for the younger players out there and people listening who want to maybe aspire into having that sense of timing, that generally doesn't happen by accident. And that there's a lot of practice that goes on to that on the field, but equally as much off the field. And my teammates and friends and really brothers within the locker room, when we played then, we were brothers on and off the field, and it really was able to be almost harmonious together when we were able to play.
You saw that all 11, because there's a pretty nice pocket your offensive line gave you on that play, as well as you see all that space and nobody around you right there, Bernie.
Yeah, to see all that space, nobody around you, and a clean uniform. That usually means you're a real positive Cleveland Browns day.
Absolutely. As we go forward a couple through here, you have that nice little one in between guys against Cincinnati. But then I want to talk about this vertical ball. We talk about quarterbacks, you know, they dropping a dime right here against the Eagles, or a bucket throw where you just drop it in a bucket. And that one, just phenomenal. Is that one of the more satisfying throws a quarterback can make?
Absolutely, Nathan. You know, us quarterbacks really obviously we all like to throw touchdowns. We all like to throw uh, touchdowns like that, make big plays. But throwing the fade against press coverage was something that was a philosophical belief in me that I wanted to make sure that teams did not do that to us. If they blitzed and played man coverage, I actually looked at that as almost an insult to me and to my receivers. And that if me as the quarterback and you as the receiver could, then there's two of us, that one small little cornerback could take us out of a football game, then we don't deserve to win. And that type of mindset of being able to almost take it as a personal challenge to be able to go out there and attack and go after people is really one of the, I think, keys to the success we had back in the 80s in winning football games. You know, we were a powerful, physical running team, just like the Cleveland Browns were last year. And when teams came up to blitz and they wanted to match our physical presence, that's when we would want to make people pay with that down the field aggressive throws. And Nathan, again, so beautifully said of as quarterbacks, that enthusiasm, that excitement of throwing a bomb versus fade versus press coverage, blitz press coverage outside, and being able in Cleveland Stadium with the wind and swirling. And last year we had multiple games where there was complete example of how physically challenging it is to get the ball up and down successfully in the end zone versus press coverage. We prided ourselves on our ability to make teams pay when they tried to do that. And that Philadelphia play there, and that was Bud Carson coming back to Cleveland. So I kind of had a good feel for some of the pressure techniques that he was going to do against us. And the Webster Slaughter was just an amazing receiver versus press coverage.
And what's fun is we're talking about obviously what you can see, the physical gifts, the accuracy. Now we're going to get into your arm strength, because that's one of the things that Bernie, underrated hose that you had slinging the ball down the field there. But everything you talked about there and knowing Bud Carson, it's that mental game as well that really allows you to have your physical gifts take over as we see here.
Yeah, you know, with the arm strength too, it was imperative to me that you had to cover all parts of the field. So when you're talking about arm strength, yeah, people want to talk about, you know, throwing the ball 65, 70, 75 yards downfield. With the way defenses rush the quarterback in our league, it's very rare that you get the opportunity in time to throw the ball 70 yards down the field. But the real test of your arm strength for quarterbacks is your ability to throw the 12-yard, 5-step out without a hitch, and see how you throw that, and the 18-yard comeback off of a drop back throw from the far hash. And the quarterbacks from the far hash that could throw the 7-step 18-yard comeback to the wide side of the field, or to the wide side of the field, throw a 5-step 12-yard non-hitched out route with perfect timing. That's imperative in the NFL, and that ability to do that really opens up the whole field, and that's more telling and more realistic. And that ability to drive comebacks in and drive that out route and open up that whole width of the field was definitely part of our success.
This throw here against the Niners, Bernie, there's another time that you know somebody's got arm strength when the ball looks like it's moving and it's fast forward right there. That one, you absolutely knew your guy had the step and you just ripped it. And look at that nose turnover beautifully on that right there. That is a rocket, 40 yards on the dime.
Well, thanks, Nathan. You know, it's imperative in our stadium with all the wind that we get that you're able to spin the ball and be able to get it up and down. And the ability to throw a spiral and to carve it through the wind so that you can make plays like that was the Monday Night Football against the great San Francisco 49ers and Steve Young. They were Super Bowl caliber teams, and they believed that they were a top defense and that my arm strength was deteriorating. And those are the type of things on Monday Night Football that you really love to go out and show the world that you're able to compete with the best.
And you certainly did. Let's talk about now You weren't the most mobile guy, but you knew how to move around the pocket. And this is something that jumped out to me when watching it. You knew how to throw from any base. You look at your footwork, you can throw on the move, you can throw with your feet open, you can throw lined up square to your target, but you had an ability to really throw from any base. And that throw right there across here, you want to talk arm strength. You're rolling right, throwing left. They say that's a no-no, Bernie, and you make that look easy.
Yeah, for a quarterback who ran a 5.5 40, you better not make a living on your athleticism. So the ability to throw the football from many different arm angles,
yep,
and with multiple different bases around me from the footwork perspective, absolutely left a lot to be desired. So for the young quarterbacks out there, I absolutely do not recommend that from the mechanics standpoint. And you'll absolutely be trending towards 30 some surgeries like I've had with poor mechanics like that. But when you're not able to scramble and you don't really have the speed like I did, you had to, in a result-oriented world, in a result-oriented game like football, in a result-oriented position like the quarterback, I used the philosophy that Jimmy Johnson taught us at the University of Miami, at the Dallas Cowboys when we won the Super Bowl, and then finishing my career at the Miami Dolphins. Jimmy Johnson always used to say before we left the locker room before in pregame to go out for kickoff, he'd go, somehow, some way, find a way to win. And when I'm back there in the pocket and don't have the ability to scramble and get away from guys, somehow, some way, I would want to be able to figure out a way to make a play. And actually, Nathan, I had a kind of in some of the plays that we were showing, like the Mark Bavaro touchdown on a couple yard scramble play. That was actually on a Monday Night Football game. I had broke my ankle in the first quarter. John Offerdahl had rolled it on me in the first series, and I had heard it snap, but I wasn't exactly sure, and played the rest of the next 3.5 quarters on it to really make sure I broke it. But as you're going through there, I used to tell my tight ends and running backs, and there's another kind of super cool play that Leroy Horde caught a scramble pass from me rolling to my left, and I threw up a 3-point shot to him. He was able to make a play and go with. But I had a scramble rule to my tight ends and to my running backs that I actually think would be perfect for the Cleveland Browns in 2021 was because I'm not really going to run, and if I am going to run, I'm not going to run very far. I would always tell Leroy Horde in particular, and you saw Mark Bavaro on that touchdown play, is if you see me running, I'm going to pretend like I'm trying to run, but rest assured there is no chance I'm going to cross the line of scrimmage willingly with that ball. So as you're running up to the line, you're actually trying to bait the defensive lineman to think you're coming. And that's actually when you're able to make some of the biggest plays on little checkdowns, throws from me to the end of the table here. When you get that defensive guy to jump up like we did, or try to undercut a check down like he did against Leroy in that Kansas City game, and you see that nobody is behind him, there's all kinds of territory like that, and you're able to really create some massive big plays like that. And that was really one of the kind of secrets that we had within our system that you develop over time from spending time with the players and the coaches, and that trust and that bond and that personality really evolves within the offense. And that's something that that resourcefulness of somehow, some way, find a way to make a play and find a way to come out with a W.
And you certainly did, as we're seeing you move all around there. We talked earlier about your ball placement, the arm strength, and now we'll talk a little bit about touch. And what does touch mean to you as a quarterback? So we look at some of your throws, and some of these we've seen in the other segments, but just your ability. I think of touch with the quarterback. Get your guy in stride, be able to go over, as you said, up and over, and then back down so that you can just use the layers of the defense to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely, Nathan. A fantastic coaching point. I've had there's so many philosophical beliefs and different systems within the game of football and within the offense of the game of football. And one one of the great men in the NFL, the Hall of Famer Bill Walsh, who actually came from the Paul Brown coaching tree.
Yes.
And then goes out to the West Coast and develops the West Coast offense. And with touch and timing, Coach Walsh was such a big believer in it's just not good enough to get a completion. Because in the pros, you should be able to get a completion to throw and catch a ball. But having that touch, having that accuracy, being able to hit people, Nathan, just like you said, hit people in stride so that you're able to create rack, run after the catch. And Bill Walsh, and the layering of his stretches, the layering of the depth of his routes, the way you're able to create run guys through his zone and replace him with a guy running in space, is really was game changing. And we're still seeing the ramifications and beautifulness of his innovations in the 70s and 80s that are still productively positive here as we get into the 2021 season.
It's so true. And the one thing that when we were watching this that really, really made me smile was that old school straight drop where you would literally backpedal away from center. Where has that gone? As we see here, more a traditional drop, and you talk about that arm strength, drilling that out. There it is right there to Brian Brennan, an absolute dime. That had it all right there. Arm strength, accuracy, and obviously, as we talked about, the ability to set up the rack. But you know, the one where you would drop straight back, holding the ball kind of in front of you. Where has that gone in today's NFL? Because you could throw left, you could throw right. You always were seeing the entire field.
Yeah, you know, the Brian Brennan drop back, that was actually my first start in Cleveland Stadium against New England my rookie year. And again, that perfectly epitomizes what I believe young quarterbacks and quarterbacks need to do in terms of dropping with depth and purpose. And you even see the ability there to do a 7-step drop, get almost 10 yards of depth, hit your 7-step, plant your foot down and throw an 18-yard comeback to the far hash like that in timing before Brian Brennan even gets out of his break. That ability to do that in less than 2.6 seconds absolutely spreads the defense out. Now, doing that on 1st and 10, people think, oh, throwing a 7-step, 18-yard comeback is aggressive type offense, but it's really spreading it out. And when you're able to spread the field out like that and make defenses cover the whole field on 1st and 2nd down, the ability then to run the ball and be physical, it really puts a defense in a massive bind. And that was the game that offensively I played back in the 80s, was of drop back throwing, forcing the ball hard outside and deep if they pressed. And then they start respecting all that deep stuff, and we would run the ball hard at them with Ernest Biner and Kevin Mack, almost like we're seeing today with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. It's a beautiful complement to offensive football that it really puts defensive coordinators in a catch-22 situation.
It does. You see Leroy Horde, once the corners are loosened up, a little bit of space, one man miss, he takes it to the house. This one here, this is the touchdown we talked about earlier. But this is the drop back I was talking about, Bernie, where you just kind of backpedal straight away from center. Why did you like that? Because I know you used to do that a lot. And why do you think that we don't see this nearly as much in the NFL anymore?
You know, the backpedaling now, from the mechanical standpoint, it probably leaves a little bit to be desired. You don't get as much depth from it, but I love to do it. And I growing up, and I'm showing my age here, of watching the great Dan Fouts, and Air Coryell, who was doing quite a bit of that drop backpedaling then. I was a great teammate and friend with the great Dan Marino, and Dan would backpedal and fire beautiful slants and beautiful fades. One of the great Cleveland Browns, Felix Wright, though, was a weak safety. And Felix noted that when Dan would backpedal, he almost 100% of the time threw to his left. Now, in that clip you're showing, when most of us QBs backpedal, yes, we do tend to throw to our left, especially when we're anticipating blitz coverage, because you're able to get a quicker peek at it earlier. But you don't want to let defenses know that is your tendency to throw left when you backpedal. So I was highly cognizant of that. So albeit that one, I did throw left and it did work for a touchdown, I absolutely made sure that I would sprinkle in backpedals and then throw it to your right, because Nathan, you hit it right on the head. You're able to see the whole field, and you could play such games with the safeties. You could look them when you're dropping backpedaling like that. You look the safety dead square in the eyes. They do not like that. And you could walk them left, you could walk them right, and you could really almost create a man coverage void within the defense just with that drop.
Well, what's cool about this one is you look right when you first come back off of there. You start off looking right. You looked right at the safety, just to freeze number 22 and come back left. And you also did a little shuffle to the left to give yourself a little bit of a better angle away from that weak safety so that you had the room to get the ball to Webster Slaughter safely there.
Yeah, the weak safety 22, Tony Lilly. I still remember him from college and the pros. So you develop a rapport with guys, and you do develop almost a personality and of the guys out there, and very astute of you, Nathan. It just takes a quick peek to the right. Just not that he has to move with my eyes to the right, but just that quick little peek with my eyes to the right. That just freezes him. Just that half a count. That's that not even half a second, that makes him tardy to too slow to getting over to Webster Slaughter on the left there, because he just looked at my right eye, peeking to my right, and it froze him for just that split second. And that's all Webster needed to create that void. And again, Nathan, very astute. You don't want to get the ball deflected, tipped, batted up in the air like that. So as I was working him to the right, you're right, just a subtle little shuffle step to the left, just to make sure you can create a throwing lane to make sure it doesn't get deflected.
So you think in today's NFL, we talked about why this drop isn't there. That was the drop you used a lot, right, in the quick game. And now I would imagine in today's NFL, in this formation at about the 5-yard line, you'd have been in shotgun, and it would have been a shotgun drop that gives you the same square look on the defense and able to see the whole field. But the footwork, you wouldn't have to backpedal, you'd already be there.
Yeah, and actually, and exactly right, Nathan. And two, it's also in the shotgun. It seems like a minutia point, but in the shotgun, it's also that first 3/10 of a second post the snap. It's also a little harder to look that weak safety, number 22, Tony Lilly, off to my right, like I do when you're in the shotgun. When you're under center, you don't really have to concentrate on the snap. The snap gets to you about 1/10 of a second quicker. You're able to keep your eyes always downfield. Yep. And when your eyes are always downfield, you have that ability, at least I was able to use that ability to manipulate the safeties a little better.
And you do, if you see it, you're talking about you're looking at 22, but the guy that you want to create space with, 49er on the left, look at the first step he takes right there. He took that little hitch. And that was the difference between a touchdown and maybe an interception, because you looked right and he didn't know where the ball was going. That hitch, that's the difference. And that's amazing to me. That's the difference in the NFL between winning and losing. And your subtlety with your eyes right there produce a touchdown, even though, as you said at the beginning, maybe you shouldn't have gone left on that one, but because of your eyes, you made left be right.
Well, you know what? Also, too, when you know that you can maybe manipulate the safeties, and again, not trying to cover for a possible misread thrown into double coverage, but you're able to actually delay that guy and get him off his assignment and put him out of position to where, again, he's tardy coming over to cover Webster.
And it's amazing, Bernie, this has been fantastic. And I think what we saw, your great skill, we saw your grit rolling left, throwing that one out to Leroy Horde. We saw your talent. I think that throw to Brian Brennan, as you said, encapsulates everything you'd want to show about quarterback play. But all these little subtleties, all these little nuances, all the study, all the time in the film room, all of those mental games are what really allowed you to utilize those physical gifts to become the Cleveland Browns legend that you are.
Yeah, well, the ability to use the resources and tools around you. And, one of the things we really didn't talk about too is off of the passing game and the drop back game, and the offense is the play action game off
Well,
of
let's get
that.
into that. We've got that, Bernie. What a segue by you. We've got the
Yeah.
play action game. Let's dial up some of the play action, Rob.
Yeah, because like on this play action, which again in the mid 80s, you're talking about really an immobile, slow quarterback doing bootlegs and play action passes. Now I was a drop back guy, and here I am doing that, and it shows how valuable those type plays are within the system. And okay, you can say, oh, hey, that was 35 years ago, but isn't it ironic to hear it? The 2020 season that we just had with the Cleveland Browns, that the resurrection of the awesome two-back offense, the running game, the physical game, and the play action game. And when you're in your play action passes, yes, we've talked about the ability to move the pocket and do the bootlegs and half rolls out that create that communication issues with the defenses and keep them off guard with that. You're also able to set your check downs right in front of you, and you're able to do protections with 7 and sometimes 8 men. So instead of releasing 4 and 5 receivers out into all the pass plays in the play action game, you actually have a significantly more pass protection. So you have a lot more, you should have more time to stretch the field, get down the field, look down the field. And if it's not there, boy, your check downs are right in front of you. And I was having the awesome honor to throw the ball to Ernest Biner and Kevin Mack, Leroy Horde as check downs. And you see some of the awesome plays that they made with it, just like we're watching, I believe, right now with Baker Mayfield throwing to Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in our offense now. To that ability to do the play action game, offensive linemen love it, because that's you're able to come off the passing game and the play action game with it. You get extra guys in for protection, and it goes in conjunction with an awesome running game.
You're right. And as you said, as a quarterback, it gives you a very clearly defined read, right? Okay, I'm going to look for my shot. And if the shot play isn't there, then I know where my check down is. And likely if the shot play is not there, we've created space as they all ran in on the play action fake and then turned around and said, oh no, it's a pass, and tried to get depth. And that creates that space for the check down to be so successful.
Absolutely.
Good stuff, Bernie. This was awesome. We cannot thank you enough for all that you mean to this city, for all that you mean to this organization and all of our fans, and for spending time with us here on the 75th anniversary edition of the Browns Breakdowns. Looking at you, Bernie, the quarterback of the Browns.
75 great years, Nathan, to 75 more. You matter. Go Browns.